You are now tuned into the 2-Minute Warning, a live stream community conversation pertaining to social and political issues and how we can collectively resolve them. Powered by the Westside Gazette.
Hello and welcome to the 2-Minute Warning. The 2-Minute Warning is brought to you by the Westside Gazette newspapers, Broward's oldest African-American family-owned newspaper that's been serving the Broward and South Florida area since 1971. And we are proud of that history and proud of the stories they continue to tell. Joining me tonight is my good brother, Mr. David Wright. And so we're going to do this thing solo tonight. Mr. Bobby Henry, the publisher of the Westside Gazette, is not with us tonight. But David, how are you doing, my brother?
Well, good evening, Brother Perry. I am outstanding. And in the words of our fearless leader, Brother Bobby Henry, terrific and getting better.
Terrific and getting better. That's right.
Yes,
that's right,
yes.
man. How's everything going?
Man, we are doing well on this end down here in sunny South Florida. And our travel prayers and mercies go out to Brother Henry. You know, he's doing the traveling thing right now.
Yeah. He is among a group who have gone to Israel, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
right.
They're on a mission out there to probably bring back some troops, get a chance to experience that holy land and absorb some of the wisdom and the knowledge and the history there and bring us back some truth.
Great. Yeah, well, I look forward to his return, and we wish him and all the entourage that has gone there safe travels. We're praying for them. We know that while they are safe, they are still in a area where there is conflict, and so we pray for their protection and their safe return.
Yes, absolutely, man. So what's going on, man? We got an exciting show tonight.
Man, we have a great show tonight, and I know Bobby's not here, so we're gonna try to flip the script a little bit. I know we usually talk about hot topics, but our guests tonight are the aficionados of dealing with hot topics.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we can just delay that conversation and then just bring our coach on, we've had some great basketball and a lot going on. And so just want to bring on our own coach, Noonie Robinson.
Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. You all were talking about the traveling. I wanted, I don't know if you're aware that my daughter and her husband, Tanya Joseph, and she and her husband just traveled to Kenya for her 40th birthday to celebrate her birthday.
Wow.
Awesome. And Bobby's dad is down here with Sonia and celebrating his 92nd birthday. The founder.
Okay, Mr. Lee,
absolutely. Awesome. So the Henrys are traveling well right now.
That's awesome.
We wish them traveling grace. Yes. You know, I wanted to start off with the NCAA championships, but I think we need to talk about O.J. Simpson a little bit. You know, he passed today. Actually, the same age as me, 76 years old, and he was just an outstanding football player at USC, a running back. He won the Heisman Trophy. He became the darling of the country, white America. You know, advertising and just something that everybody would be enthralled about and just so happy about. But we won't remember all the great things he did in pro football, like being the first to rush for 2,000 yards. Mm-hmm. We're going to remember him for the white Bronco and for the trial that occurred that supposedly divided America, where he was found not guilty of killing Nicole Simpson Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman, her friend, in a double stabbing that just captivated the country, and he rode in his Bronco down the highway in California, and he was followed by all of those police officers, and he eventually gave himself up. We're talking about a police officer who was racist. We're talking about a glove that didn't fit. I know most of you are probably too young to remember that, but what I remember more than anything else is when the verdict was finally given, and I think most America probably thought he did it, but there was so much going on in LA with the Rodney King situation, so much abuse. And when the glove didn't fit and he was found not guilty, all of those who were in the white audience were despondent, just so disappointed at the verdict. But in Black America, it was like exhilaration, and it was almost like it was whether he was guilty or not. All you need is reasonable doubt, right? And that's what we got. Do y'all remember that incident? That really did.
Oh, vividly.
Man, I can remember where I was when I heard the verdict.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was one of those kind of moments.
So they said it divided America, but actually America was already divided as it is now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the NCAA championships.
Yes.
As I predicted in the West Side Gazette column, Nooney on the sideline,
Yes.
I predicted that UConn would win the championship for the men, and they did. I thought Purdue did a great job. Zach Edey proved that he was really worthy of the Wooden Award, which he eventually won. But UConn's game plan was excellent. They were willing to give up the 2-point plays that Edey scored underneath the basket, but they were not going to allow.
Not sure.
Brother Noonan, we lost your audio.
We've lost your audio.
Okay, and we're gonna have to get back to him once they set that up. Yeah, that was an exciting game. You know, they gave Edey the bottom, the the 2-pointers, as he said, but the rest of the team just never ever got it going. And you know, again, a great, and this is UConn's second time winning that national championship back to back. And from my understanding,
6 times overall.
Six times overall, first time back to back, and they tied a Florida team's record. University of Florida, I think, was the only other team that has done that back to back here recently. So we'll wait to get Brother Noonan back on, man. I tell you, it's just so much going on in the sports world that he's probably got more and more information to share. I can't wait to find out his take on the women's, which I know he had already picked South Carolina to take that. But we'll wait for him to get back. But in the meantime, you know, the title of the show tonight is Digital Activism or Digital Noise, Influencers on a Mission. Now, what sparked that title, Brother Perry?
Well, man, it's you know, when we started the show, we started it with a vision of really addressing voting, and that sparked an interest, and we've continued to hopefully bring to our audience some worthwhile discussion. We hope that we've enlightened. But one of the things I shared with you, David, is that you know, I if I'm going to do this, I want it to stretch, not just the audience. I want it to stretch us. And so for the last, I would say maybe a year, I've sort of taken a step back from social media. I'm not saying that I don't interact. I do. I post occasionally. I do some interaction. But I took a step back to try to observe. And in my observing and connecting through some other dots, I came across some individuals who were really saying some great things. And they had, you know, some powerful platforms, and I reached out to a few of them because I think that you know, those of
Mhm.
us, especially us baby boomers,
Mhm.
we gonna be honest today. You know, the baby boomers, we seem to have some disconnect.
Mhm.
You know, especially around voting, we have an older population who's always talking about young people not being involved. Well, we can debunk that because a lot of that stuff is just helps to, you know, perpetuate some of the greatness that we are doing. And I think that if we could quit getting in our own way and begin to listen to our young individuals, our young people who are seeing this landscape in a much different way.
Mhm.
And maybe we could try to find ways to not be so critical, not so dismissive, but to give ourselves a chance to really listen because this world around us has changed. And so while we can easily dismiss the things on social media as just being maybe some crackpot, some conspiracy, and people acting a fool, uh, there are individuals who are really using this tool to hit some critical spots that we are not paying attention to. And so
Mhm.
I wanted to invite some people over, some individuals who
Mhm.
I've had the privilege of following and seeing their engagement and said, hey, look, y'all, come talk to some older people. Let us talk to you, and let's see what good trouble we can really get
Mhm.
into when we can get beyond our own barriers.
Mhm.
And so that's the purpose of this tonight's show is let's get
Mhm.
beyond our barriers. Let's hear some different. Let's hear some things from different voices.
Yeah. Tell Unc what you really know. And Perry, I gotta tell you this because not only are the people that we're gonna have on the show tonight well versed, well educated, well traveled, you know, they got their ear to the ground. They got
Right,
their finger
right,
on the pulse of what's happening in our young community, man. And they're doing this thing
right,
at levels that we can only I mean only imagine.
right.
You know,
Yeah,
I mean, we're seeing all ages really get engaged in this,
right.
but tonight you put together something that I believe is very special. But before we bring them on, we just want to tell all our viewers, you know, like us, go ahead and put your information in the chat. We see a couple of people out here, Lonnie and Sonia, but definitely go ahead and chime in. And this is a conversation you truly want to be a part of. So without any further ado, Perry, I think it's just
Yeah,
time that we go ahead and get moving.
yeah. Okay, is Nooney back? I thought he might be back. If so, we want to give him at least one chance. Is he back? Yeah, okay. Yeah, he's back. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Perry and David?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
hear
we
you
I,
got
fine.
you.
I so apologize because the phone knocked me off line, but I just briefly wanted to, if you give me permission to
Sure.
talk about the NBA playoffs and
Move
what's
your
going
phone
on.
up just a little bit. Move your phone up just a little bit.
Move it up
We want to
Yeah.
see.
No,
so
don't
you can.
turn it. Just go sideways and move it up some. So,
There you go.
yeah. All right,
You,
that's it.
Perfect.
y'all can see me now. I can't
I
see anything.
love being on the live stream. You ain't no telling what you gonna get on here.
What's going to happen? Can you hear me though?
We
Hear you
got you
fine.
loud and
Oh,
clear.
okay. I just wanted to briefly talk about the NBA playoffs in the Eastern and Western conferences. I mean, it's really exciting. And all you have to do is win a game or lose a game. And what the Heat has done in the Eastern Conference is lose 2 games. And they are now going to be playing the 76ers for the 7th seed, which means that they will have an opportunity to play the number 2 seed. And the reason that has happened is because what's his name? The big center, Embiid, is back with the 76ers, and he is doing well. So the Heat they're really going to have to play well to get in the playoffs. They're going to be in the play-ins. And what's happening in the Western Conference, it's really so tight, and those teams are excellent over there. But the Warriors and the Los Angeles Lakers will be the 9th and 10th teams playing for the
Wow.
7th and 8th seeds, if you can believe that. Incredible.
Yes, yes.
Incredible. In basketball, John Calipari has left Kentucky and decided to go to Arkansas because he didn't feel like he was wanted. He said that Kentucky needed a different voice. And they are looking at Scott Drew, the coach of Baylor, as the next coach at Kentucky. We'll see about that. Yeah. And basically, the Florida Panthers are doing well. They're in second place, and they're going to be in the playoff in their division. They have a chance to compete again for the Stanley Cup. And our poor Marlins, are like 2-11. They've gotten off to a really bad start, disastrous start, and we're hoping that they do better. And basically, that's all I have for you all tonight. Unless you have some questions, I know you want to move on, and I'm going to be listening in too.
Okay, but Coach, before you go, I know you got cut off, but we didn't get a chance to talk about the NCAA Women's Championship game. So can you just give us a brief highlight on our super coach, Don Staley, and what can you say about that, Coach?
Absolutely. First of all, I like the way she praises our Lord and Savior after victory before she says anything. She gives praise where it's due. And she is just an outstanding leader of young women today, and probably do the same thing with young men, because she understands what makes them tick, and she allows them to be themselves, but at the same time they respect her enough that she can pull them back in when they get too far out of line. And she replaced a team that went undefeated except for the loss against Iowa last year with new players, and 38-0, which is absolutely phenomenal, and won the NCAA championship. And they've been celebrating something awesome. And this young lady who played guard that defended Caitlin Clark and stole the ball several times after she had been waved off because Clark didn't feel like she had to guard her in the game in the previous game last year that they won. And she just got her, in a sense, revenge. And she said the revenge is over now. And they won the championship, and I'm so proud of them. And finally, the WNBA draft is going to be April 15th. And Clark, who is really a phenomenal player, is going to be the number one draft pick of the Indiana Fevers, the same team that took Aaliyah Boston last year, who played for South Carolina. So they should be a much more competitive team with those two. And with that, I'm out, and I thank you all for your well wishes regarding my brother. God bless you, and I will be listening. I'm interested in this conversation as well.
All right. Thank you, our sports analyst, Mr. Noonan Robinson. So, Harry, I'm going to hand it over to you, man. This is, I'm so excited. Tell me what you got.
All right, man. As we said, our topic tonight is digital activism. Well, digital noise or digital activism. And we've got some content creators, social influencers who's made it a mission, their life commitment, to not just create content, but to create content that tells our story without filters. And they are relentless in their pursuit to tell our stories. And so I know we usually bring on our guests one at a time, but I just want to, Roderick, if we can bring in all of our guests, and I just want everyone, we'll bring them all in, and I'll introduce them all together. Okay. Our first guest is Colorful Story. Colorful Story uses her platform to discuss American history through the Black American experience. She also discusses politics and Black culture. She's a former educator who found that social media has been a liberating place to get information out that pertains to our culture. And not only is she a taker of the information, she is a very creative giver of information. And so we are, she says, I believe our stories are meant to be told loudly, proudly, and in full color. Mm-hmm. And you can best believe that's what she does. Our next guest is Kelly Knighton Huff. She's known as the Bell Curve. And because of Twitter, She's also known as the Vote Hoe. We can talk about why that name change came about. But Kelly is an intellectual interrogator, defiant debater, and champion of common sense. She's a Louisiana native. As I said when she first told me that, I said, "Okay, you're a Frankie Beverly girl." She is a Southern Louisiana girl, and she is alumni of an HBCU. And no, we're not talking about Southern. We're talking about Xavier University. She graduated from Xavier with a degree in biology pre-med, but decided to explore performing arts instead of medical school. And so she auditioned and was accepted into the American Musical and Dramatic Academy, the AMDA, and was performing on a national tour 3 weeks after she graduated. Over the past 20 years, she has performed on stages all across North America, most notably earning a Helen Hayes Award. If you're in the drama theater, you know the Helen Hayes Award is no, you're not talking peanuts here. Nomination for Outstanding Supporting Actress for her role in the historic Ford's Theater presentation of the Civil War. So you know this sister got something to say. Gonna bring her from slavery to post-COVID. Okay, and our next guest is Brother Kenny Akers. Kenny is a devoted family man and proud military veteran. And so we salute him and thank him for his service. He served for our armed military for over 2 decades. He's traveled to 52 countries and lived in Japan for over 4 years. His commitment to advocating for equality and social justice through preserving Black history is what drives him. He's authored many topics in public speaking, and history teaching has got him to where he is today. And I know I flubbed that up, but let me tell you, this brother is from Utah. I don't need to say anything else. We got a brother from Utah. So we're about to hear some perspective that not most of us are accustomed to. And so thank all of you for joining us. To our audience, please, this is going to be hot topics. We can start with OJ. We can start with Arizona and voting. But if you have a hot topic, if you have a question, please, put it in the comments. But before we start hot topics, I really want to ask all of you what drove you to not just be a content creator, but be a content creator in this specific space. We'll start with Colorful and work ourselves through.
So, it's been a while since I've been doing this. So it's been since COVID started. I decided after years of not wanting to join another social media platform to join TikTok. And I got on there talking about the January 6th uprising, terrorist attack, domestic violence, domestic terrorist attack.
Exactly what it was.
Yes. And it went from there. And then what really started to make me dive a little bit deeper is like, I'm a former educator, and I realized a lot of people are not privy to the basic understanding of American government. And that's something I taught 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and high schoolers. And it just blew my mind that adults did not understand the basic concept of American government, let alone American history through the Black American experience, but just basic American government. And I said, let me just expound upon that. So I'm here. I'm originally from New Orleans, but I'm based here in Texas, in Dallas, Texas. And there was an initiative to get the Black History 365 textbook out into different schools so that you could see Black American history being taught the way that it should be taught. And I broke down the difference between the American history books that most kids have in their classroom against the Black History 365 textbook, and it just kind of took off. It really just took off. And then from there, started talking about what was happening in Tulsa, where survivors of the Tulsa race riots were testifying in Congress. And many people didn't know that you can watch Congress live. And the commentary just became an opening door for my platform. So long story short, talking about history and talking about American government is something that I've been doing since I was in high school, when I had my Black Panther high school teachers teaching me about Black American history. And they just encouraged me to embrace it. You know, my grandfather, he was an American history teacher. He had me recite the preamble to the Constitution every time I was in his house. Like, I had to walk in his house and recite the preamble to the Constitution. These are the things that I felt were important to try to give to the rest of those who decided to follow me. And I wanted something of substance out there.
All right. Well, I'll go next. And just to piggyback on something she just said about the preamble, I'm also a Louisiana native, and I don't want to speak for your uncle, but I feel as though the reason that was so important and imperative for us is because in Louisiana, that was part of the polling laws for our elders. They used to have to recite the preamble word for word in order to vote. And if you messed up one word, if you said then and not then, you were not able to vote. And so that, like, I also know the preamble by heart. And like, I don't know if that was the reason my grandmother and my cousins were trying to teach me, but I also know that by heart. And it's a wild experience being from Louisiana. But to answer the question as to what got me into doing this, I have been involved and interested in politics since I was about 8 years old. My grandmother was 75 years old when I got here, and I spent almost every day with her until I went to college. So she was an avid watcher of C-SPAN and all the things, and she would be going back and forth with the TV, giving them the what for. And so I think that's a little bit where I got it from. So what got me into TikTok was when the 2020 primaries began. I personally, during the 2015-2016 election period, I was not as well versed on our primary system as I thought I was. You know, I thought, like a lot of adults out there, that I knew how the political system worked. And then when all of the stuff was going on with the primaries, I wasn't one of these crazy Bernie bros that were saying, you know, it was rigged or anything like that. But I started looking more into it, like, well, what's going on? What are the numbers that are needed? What is it that makes it seem as though Bernie Sanders had a real chance, and then it turned out that it was an abysmal chance? And I started reading more, I started doing more research, and come to find out, you know, I did all the numbers after Hillary Clinton lost. It was a total of under 100,000 votes that got Donald Trump into our executive branch. It was like 40,000. He won by 40,000 votes in Michigan, won by like 20,000 votes in Pennsylvania, and another like 10,000 votes or something like that in Wisconsin. I don't remember the actual numbers, but back then I had the actual numbers. And so I sat down and I thought to myself, well, how can we engage more people to just participate in the system? Because the non-participation is what got us Donald Trump. And so then when I started looking into it more, and I found out that our midterm elections, we have never had a midterm turnout over 50% in our lifetimes. And that's what made me go, hold the phone, stop this. What are we doing? Am I the only person showing up every year to the elections? Like, what's going on? And come to find out, it's a minority of us who are participating every year or every 2 years. The big hubbub comes every 4 years for the presidential election, but the people who really run our government, our House of Representatives and our Senate, they're just flying by. Like, no one's checking them. No one is voting them out. No one is pushing for better candidates to be put in. And so I said, enough of this. Like, I'm going to be Chicken Little running around here saying that the sky is falling, because it is. The sky is about to fall clean on our heads if we don't wake up and start participating. And everyone who thinks that just showing up once every 4 years, it's not going to cut it. And nothing is going to change unless we change it. And so that's why I started using my platform. I dedicated, a lot of my platform to trying to get the vote out. I'm not necessarily trying to tell people who to vote for, but in these times, there should be a clear choice. There should be a clear choice, especially if you are not white, heterosexual, Christo-fascist male. You should have a clear choice on who you're voting for in 2024. But like I said, I don't tell people who to vote for, but I can tell you one thing: I've hated the Republican Party since I was 8 years old, and I am ready for its demise. It's right there at our fingertips if we just participate. That's it.
Well, I may disagree about their demise. I may this version of their demise.
Get them out of here! Get them out of
here! We do need a Republican Party, just not these. But we'll talk about that later. Okay. Kenny.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Busby, right?
Yes.
At Gazette, really appreciate you having me on here this evening. It's an honor to be with the other panel members here too as well. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation that we're about to have this evening. Excuse me. My journey started during the George Floyd event. And when that all went down here in Salt Lake City, Utah, believe it or not, there was a bunch of riots that were going on down here. And there was a bunch of things that were going on in the news. Of course, it's still a small city compared to a lot of metropolitan areas. So, it was kind of a hot topic at the time when all that was going on right here in Salt Lake City. Because mainly I was watching it from, or seeing events kick off in other states, major cities where riots were happening, cars were getting turned over, and, fires and stuff that was going on just because people were upset. Well, that was happening here too as well. And the first thing that I had thought, after spending my time in the military and the things that I had been through, my first concern was another incident happening as George Floyd would happen here in Salt Lake City. So for some reason, I felt compelled to go down into the heart or into the base of what was actually happening, not knowing what I was about to do, who I was going to talk to, or what I was about to say. But long story short, in this small incident, the riot started to come towards a small 7-Eleven. And the gentlemen and other people that were there that were trying to, voice their opinions and do the things that they were doing that day, I decided to take a stand and get in front of this, this mob of individuals. It was just a mixture of all kinds of people. And the things that I had said, basically, I was on my soapbox, preaching, telling these young folks that this isn't the right way. These aren't things that we should be doing right now. There's other ways that we can go about it. And to kind of piggyback on some political voices and education and other things that were going on, I advocated for that as well. And there was a news reporter that was recording the incident right there on the spot. That immediately got me a ticket to the governor's office immediately within 24 hours. And from there, I did a world tour on every news channel within the state of Utah, radio broadcast, and that kind of catapulted me into politics. It catapulted me into the community outreach programs that I'm doing here. It's just moved so much in that direction. And so I have made it a dire need mission on myself, because I made a promise to those young Black individuals and people of color, Hispanic, and those other individuals that day, that I would personally find another route and link with other like-minded individuals to help them understand that there is a different way that we can channel this energy to make a move into the direction that we wanted to. And I have not stopped since.
Wow, that is powerful, powerful. How can we clone you, Kenny, and just spread you out throughout the rest of the U.S.?
You're going to have to come up here to Utah, man.
Well, that's great. And just wanted to really kind of see a thread between all of that you all were saying, and that was you learned activism as a young age.
Mm-hmm.
then why is that this disconnect? If you all learned it, but yet we have a lot of people in my generation thinking that you haven't. Where's this disconnect, and how can we fix this? Because I'm not just here to kind of talk about the great things that you're doing. We got to fix some real breaches, because you guys speak on platforms that a lot, maybe many of our audience never really venture into. So kind of share with them just kind of, and I've met most of them through X, which formerly Twitter, but still Twitter. I'd say my age. Twitter has taken on a much wide open profile that some would consider to be more racist. But I've seen you all use that to your benefit.
Yeah.
So kind of share with us how you're kind of using some of these new tools to help reach and even help bring a different light to the attack. Because I kind of think that we always end up having these racial attacks, and they tend to take on the same tones. So how have you began to change those tones?
You mind if I go first? I can take a stab at it really quick. By all means. So for me personally, I feel like it's a global reach. On my platform, I feel like I have the world at my fingertips, first and foremost. There are a lot of people around the world that are saying the same things that we are saying right here in the United States. And so when that stage gets brought in closer, more people are able to communicate, more people are able to share ideas. We're able to get those voices amplified and projected out there so that they are also included in this movement. Now, to answer your question, sir, I feel like the disconnect is that there are people that want to be activated and there are people that do not want to be activated, and that's normal in society. There are particular individuals that do not want to do the kind of stuff that we are doing because, quite frankly, it's a little dangerous, you know, to get your name out there, to get your face out there and speak about the things that you're speaking about. So it's a little dangerous. So, I mean, in all retrospect, to individual safety and family safety and the harassment and the things that go along with that, not everybody wants to be involved with that. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there. Now, what social media does do is connect the youth to political ideas and the things that are going on within society in a safe atmosphere, along with the older generation too as well. We can bring that information on a world stage platform and help those individuals be connected in a safe environment so then they can make the proper choices at the voting line.
Yeah. I'll also say, I think with today's youth, and I don't know if we are considered youth anymore, but with today's social media users, I'll say that there is a mirage of equity and there is also an illusion of convenience. So people are not used to getting up and getting out and doing things to receive things. You know, you don't even have to look in a book for an answer anymore. You can just type it into your phone or type it onto your computer and boom, it's there instantly. So there's this illusion of convenience that if my government is messed up, somebody's going to fix it for me, or it's going to be, you know, as simple as saying that we want this and then it's going to appear. So that's one thing. Like, a lot of people who are on social media these days don't even understand that the Montgomery bus boycott that got us closer to civil rights took an entire year of people walking to work in rain and heat and cold weather and all these things and figuring it out and collectively trying to help each other, and community being so important, the organizing that they had to do to get something like that done. These people are not used to that kind of thing. They're a microwave generation. So that's one of the challenges that we have. The other thing, the mirage of equity, I feel as though my husband was a vice principal in all boys middle school for over a decade. And I used to help at the school and do after school programs, et cetera, et cetera. And one thing I will say, this is not like, I'm not saying this as an authority on the matter or in a scientific way, but one thing we did observe is that, you know, when all the kids had a smartphone, they all felt like they were equal, right? They all could do the same things. They could download the same phones and play with each other and everything. So there is a mirage of equity among a certain generation, because the usual markers that used to tell you that you didn't belong or you weren't one of the majority was your economic status. And things like, you know, cell phones and all that, that kind of lulled people into, oh, well, I'm doing well now, and I'm one of the, you know, I'm one of the majority. I'm a person who matters now because I have a cell phone, or because I have this and I have better economic status, when in actuality, these people are placating you with physical things and material things, and then snatching your rights away from you behind your back because you're not participating and you're not learning and you're not doing the thing to keep you in an equitable position in this country, especially where legislation is concerned. Legislation rules us all. I mean, right now it doesn't look like it with Donald Trump and all the things he's getting away with legislation right now. But at the end of the day, legislation is the bottom line in this country. And if you are not doing what you need to do to shape and take advantage of that legislation, you are going to be shoved to the back, oppressed, and it's not going to be a good time for you in America. I'll just say that.
Wow, that's really interesting. Mirage of Equity. Awesome platform there. Colorful Story, what do you have to add?
I'd like to look at it. I think Kenny and Bell Curve have already talked a lot about it from like our younger generations. I'd like to consider being a millennial, being the midlife crisis generation, because we practically are in midlife crisis mode for years. But I when you asked that question, I thought about my great aunt and my grandmother, and I told myself, before they get too old, I'll make my way back to Louisiana and record their experience, because they were born and raised on a slave plantation in Abilene, Louisiana. And they lived there for years. They worked those plantations for years. Like, their father was sharecroppers.
Right.
And my grandmother told me something that shocked me. She said when she was able to vote, she didn't know she had the right to vote. That is how rural the area was, and education was not as accessible. So when she and her siblings were able to vote, it took a lot. Like, her sister moved to New Orleans, and she said she remembers being outside of City Hall in New Orleans, and the lights just going out, and the police dogs out there, and the white mobs out there trying to get them to not vote. And she said in the last election, in the 2020 election, she said she's tired. She said she's tired. She said, I have voted my whole life. She said, I have almost lost my life trying to vote. And she said, I'm tired. And she said to watch as the years have gone by with her voting in every election, and watching as her rights as a woman get stripped away after she voted to have them, after not having them. She watched that, and she feels like she came across a point, like an impasse, where she's just tired. She's like, I feel like I thought we could have made it. I thought we could have made it. But she said they really don't get it. They really don't get it. And she's literally in a hospital right now. She's in her last days. And she told me this within about 2 or 3 years ago, that she can't do it no more. And it's ironic that she's saying she's witnessing all of the rights of women being stripped away from her after actually being out there voting to make sure that women have rights. And she says she just doesn't understand this generation. And I feel like that disconnect is the fact that we're not sitting at our grandmother's tables anymore having these conversations. We're not actively seeking out information and trying to have critical thought about the information we are being fed. Like, we're not questioning in a way that's conducive. We're not questioning in a way that is critical to thought, that is dealing with forming inferences around the information that we're being given. We're not considering the elderly who have gone before us. We're not considering the ramifications of the actions that we face today and what that looks like for the future generations. And I think about my grandmother and I think about my great aunt because we have had these conversations on multiple occasions. And I see the disconnect. I see the generation of, I'm tired because I've marched, I've fought, I've been hosed down, I've been attacked. And I'm watching as people who have never experienced this benefit from all of those things that I've endured and saying, it's not worth it. It's not worth showing up. It's not worth fighting for. It's not worth doing the research. It's not worth saying that I'm going to be my ancestors' wildest dream. We're going to wear it on a t-shirt, but we're not actually being the wildest dreams
Talk
that
about it.
our ancestors were.
Talk
So
about that.
I feel like that disconnect is not only voter apathy, but I think it's a level of privilege of younger generations of
That's right.
never having to touch anything that our elders and our ancestors have ever had to endure. And we benefited so much that we have disconnected from so much of who we were. We don't want to hear about it. We don't want to talk about it. It's out of sight. It's out of mind. We don't have to think about those things anymore. And I think as millennials, older millennials, we are the last generation that have had those stories. We are the bridge between the analog and the technological age.
Mm-hmm.
We are the last to touch that. And sadly, those coming up after us are not being fed and poured into the way that we were fed and poured into. And you're seeing how that level of disconnect is continuing to spread. Now, in my household, I will tell you, it doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. We have books. We make our children research. But it's one of the reasons why I push on my platform so hard for us to know our experience, our American history through the Black American experience, because nobody's sitting at grandma's table anymore.
Right.
Nobody's doing it. Nobody's having these conversations. We're not going to church and learning about history anymore. We're not having political conversations in church anymore. We're not having these conversations in our neighborhoods anymore. And the disconnect is getting bigger.
Yeah.
I got a lot to say here. I'm listening, and I'm with you 1000%. There's no disagreements, and I feel like you brought a thought to my mind in regards to the disconnect. In a society where we're in a predominant of the majority, which we can speak out loud of which that is, there's only going to be a proximity to us. You're speaking of a younger generation that is going to feed into a proximity. There's only one exit route for them to go into, and that is within the majority. And so that's why when you said earlier that they are coming to a point where they don't want to have these discussions like we are having right now, or they don't want to discuss about where our ancestors have came from, is because the only route that they have is to go into the proximity of the majority. Now, what we're doing, what I've noticed the two of you doing as well, is that education through history is paramount, you know, and bringing these individuals to the context of what our history is in this country. And when people start to see that history, then they can start listening to the echoes that are being echoed throughout society. And so when they start to put those two things together, they will get grounded and get reconnected to what our story is and have the ambition to get into these positions to make that change. So, and excuse me for interrupting, but I had to get that off my chest.
I'll say something to that too, as well, with what Kenny just said. What we have to do and what we all try to do is bring that history into the present. Just like the other day when Arizona did the law that they did, I literally sat down and thought about what I was going to tweet out. And I was like, I have to highlight that this was a Civil War era law that they are revamping. And it should click, you know, maybe it doesn't for everyone, but it should click Civil War. What do you think they're coming for next? You know, like they're coming for women. Who do you think they're coming for next? And it is a Civil War era rule that they are allowing to go forth now and be law on the books. What do you think they're coming for next, people?
They're already doing it right now. I mean, the bark on the town is Jim Crow 2.0.
That's it.
I mean, let's get that out there. I mean, Mississippi has already made a separate judicial system for, you know, non-melanated individuals that are caught up in the judicial system to give them different type of benefits and changes within their system. And there's so much that's being encompassed right now. We're talking about DEI, critical race theory. We're talking about, all types of other types of things that are happening with society that we're pushing aside, affirmative action in the colleges. I mean, these things were only implemented within the last 50 to 60 years, and we're watching them dissipate slowly but surely. And to what you were saying, Bell Curve, is that history is so important, and it's not taught properly on a regular educational basis. Thousands of people tell me daily that they did not know a part or a piece of information about history. And thank you for providing that information. And this is just basic kind of stuff, not really digging into it. Now, what I've done even further is that I've tried to, like what you were saying, Bell Curve, is I try to bring that parallelism to the history, Civil War incidences, Jim Crow incidences, and I do my research on current politics and political issues that are going on right now, and I match them together. And I bring them together, and the voices and the things that are being said, all we're doing is rewriting these laws to duplicate what we were doing before. I mean, if anybody knows anything about history, we should all see this coming night and day.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. It's doomed to repeat itself.
Right.
It should make sense that when you see bills, when you see conversations happening that are rooted in history, that a red flag should pop up whenever someone in the legislative branch, the executive branch, or the judicial branch decides that we're going to take a historical policy that was created to disenfranchise a specific group of people during a time where people did not have specific rights because they were not white, they were not male, they were not Christian, they were not property owners. When those things pop up, the red flag should start flying. But it's not clicking, Stephen. And I don't understand why it's not clicking. But then again, I do.
It's disguised. It's disguised is what it is. It's what they've done is created the Trojan horse. If we're looking at the majority that implemented slavery in the first place and got these things going on in our American history, and you're talking about ancestors and even your immediate family members that had not received certain type of information that they could even vote, is because there was a Trojan horse that made it disguised that they could not vote in the first place. Now, how do you think that works today? Today, we're doing the same thing. They're rewriting these bills, they're rewording them, they're sugarcoating them, and they're changing them right before even Black legislators' faces, to where they cannot recognize some of these things that were taking place in the past. So it's being sugarcoated right now.
Kenny, you on it, man.
I think they're getting a little bit bolder though, because down here in Texas, they're not covering. They're not covering.
Not doing it in Louisiana either.
They don't care.
Yeah, the
they
South has never really sugarcoated their
nothing.
laws.
Nothing.
So white nationalism.
They're this close to just saying all Black people to the back.
Come on, get that white nationalism.
So this is white nationalism, deeply rooted in the evangelical mindset. And we're starting to see issues like this globally, not just here in the United States. So that's another thing we have to be mindful of. But where do we go from here? Perry, what do you have to say?
Well, weaving these again back to where we started. Kelly talked about our kids and the disconnect, and I understand that about some bad apples. But when I look at the number of what we would put in that bad apple group, if I'm a farmer, the first thing I would start saying is, then if I'm getting bad apples, I've got some bad trees. And I think that's kind of where we sort of weave around this issue is we've had a generation of just straight up bad parenting.
We also had a generation of bad Republican trees. Like just on a policy issue.
Democratic trees. I would even say, even in some local districts, some bad local leadership trees. Let's just be honest. And so when you look at the apathy of, and I'll say my generation, because I'm the last year of the baby boomers. We were the immediate recipients of civil rights legislation and voting rights legislation.
Mm-hmm.
And I just turned 60 and we done lost voting rights,
Mm-hmm.
some civil rights. Now, I don't want to use that to really be, judgmental, because it's kind of hard giving people something that they don't know how to use. And so for 50 years, we've kind of used that to create what we call leadership. But that leadership has no foundation in our communities. For one, because our communities look so different now. Where we used to be together, we are not disparate, and we kind of call ourselves together. And we sort of use this social media kind of say that we together when really we not. Mm-hmm. But so how do we begin to mend not just getting our kids, but getting some of this parenting? Because we got parents who are straight up listening to Charlemagne, who's straight up listening to Candace, who's straight up listening to Killer Mike, who's straight up.
If I can say,
this is the element out there that I'm saying that we don't really get to know about, that we have some parents who are just straight up caught up on the silliness.
Yeah.
I really quick bell curve. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
When you get into this thought process of thinking that we have a generation that are listening to these typical artists and not finding a proper route, right? About a couple of weeks ago, I did a take in regards to people saying that, the idea or the stereotype that all Black people are criminals, where they always sit this in this tone or this criminality that we're criminals. Now, I did this whole research. I spent an entire day on looking at the numbers, and come to find out 90% or 95% of us are law-abiding citizens. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 90 to 95% of us are law-abiding citizens. But if you ask any Black person, they will tell you they've heard a time or two from anybody that we are usually the typical criminals in society. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's projected as such. We see it on television. We see it on news. We see it on the newspaper. We see it everywhere. This idealistic view of us being criminals is perpetuated in society throughout fold, everywhere we look. Now, to go back into your question, Mr. Busby, the simple fact is that we have to look at the 95% of us that are law-abiding citizens. The individuals that you described, yes, that is a sore, if you would, and we have some work to do there. Now, I also did some other work in regards to that. There's thousands of people that are out there that are advocating for the rights of these individuals and helping them, mentorship programs and these situations to help these individuals make the right choices. That is being worked on, and I'm rest assured that it's being taken care of. But we got to focus on the 95% of us that are law-abiding citizens that didn't know, colorful stories of the family that did not know that they could vote. We need to get our voice into those individuals and at least have them participate in regards to our dilemma here that we're having within society.
And to speak to those 95%, I think the one thing we all need to focus on is educating people on how the system works. Mm-hmm. Like, absolutely. I feel like a broken record every day, but I'm not going to stop until I see some kind of change, because at the end of the day, voting is just a numbers game. It is not about our feelings. Like, yes, as I've said many times, I have very strong feelings about the GOP, but that is not all that I depend on when I look at how I'm going to utilize my vote. And I think one of the things that the parents of today, like the millennials, the older millennials, Gen X that I'm a part of, what we all got, I don't want to say it in a pejorative way, but what we got lulled into this, the feelings make it happen with Obama, because Obama was the first politician we have ever had in our lifetimes that had the power of social media at their disposal. Mm-hmm. So it was the first time a lot of people started paying attention to politics. And when they started paying attention to it, it wasn't the nuts and bolts. It wasn't the how many electoral college votes or anything. It was the feeling. It was this is going to help change this terrible situation we're in. Like, a lot of people seem to forget that, when George W. Bush was president, we were in trouble. The housing market fell. We were in a recession. Things were terrible for people who were adults during that time. And so the hope and the change and all of these things that we felt with Obama, especially on social media, that's what drove people to the polls. Now everybody's like, well, I don't feel like that anymore, so I'm not going to utilize my vote. Well, what do you think you're supposed to be doing with it, baby? Like, you're going to put it on the show for it to collect dust? Because guess what? The other side, they're going to always show up because they know that that's where their power is. The GOP knows that their power is in their vote. And that's why they will come out every single year to support policies that oppress people that are not white, that are not men, that are not heteronormative, and that are not Christians. So the GOP utilizes their power, and they continually teach people vote, 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 no matter what. It took them 50 years to overturn Roe versus Wade, and they did it. Like Phyllis Schlafly, she started a campaign in her living room, mailing things out, but she harnessed that feeling. She harnessed that feeling that women who back then didn't have any rights, who had to depend on men to get a credit card. You couldn't own property. You couldn't do anything back in before 1973 as a woman, as a single woman. You didn't have access. So she leaned on their dependence on men and, this whole societal, you have to be this kind of woman. And that's how she propelled her advocacy for this pro-life nonsense. When in the reality, no one is pro-abortion. What we are pro is you staying out of my business in my bedroom, with you staying out of my body. It is my body. It is my choice. And you should not have any kind of law that tells me I can't do what I have decided is best for myself and my situation. But again, with going back to the whole feelings thing, people are focused so much on feelings. That's why we see so much with this, with the conflict that's going on in Palestine right now. People's feelings are taking priority. But what they don't understand is that the GOP is the one who is negating all the aid to Gaza. The GOP completely supports what Netanyahu is doing to the Palestinians. And if you don't show up to defeat the GOP, voting for the person in opposition to them is not saying that you love them. It's not saying that you are pledging your life to them. It's not even saying you want to be a buddy that they screw on the weekends. What it is, it's a numbers game, and you have to show up to beat them. And the only way you can do that is to make sure somebody who can feasibly win can beat them. And so at the end of the day, we only have two choices. And as someone who I just want to put it out there, I am not a Democrat. I am not. I am a unaffiliated voter. I only register as a party because I live in a closed party state right now. So I only register for a party when I have to vote in primaries. So we have closed primaries. A lot of people don't even know what that is. A lot of people don't know that there's rules in certain states. You can switch parties because parties should not be your entire personality or anything that you're hanging your hat on. It is literally just it distills down the choices that we have. That's what the political parties are supposed to do. They're supposed to be the first line of defense to vet these people who want to write the laws that run our lives. So if you affiliate yourself with this party for this election cycle, it doesn't mean you're pledging your life to these people. It doesn't mean you have to vote that way next time. What it means is that you have looked at the choices, you have looked at the numbers, and you say, this is the best way for me to get what I need out of my government. And I am going to utilize my voting capital in the way that will help me. And that, we need to educate people in that way. We need to let them know about what the House of Representatives are, and how you get a new representative for your state. People don't even participate in the census because they think it's some archaic thing. How do you think these people can tell how many Black people or brown people or Asian people or whatever in your state deserve a representative in the federal body? The census. but you didn't want to fill it out because you're scared of 5G birds and all this nonsense that's going on with the conspiracy theories. You know, like they're going to get your information and all this other nonsense. At the end of the day, I honestly, earnestly, 100% feel that people need to be educated on the nuts and bolts and mechanics of how our system works and put all these feelings to the side. And I know that's a very unrealistic desire to put all feelings to the side, but if we could like divide it in half or something, like get these feelings out of here and start looking at the facts. That's one of the reasons why I try to provide I try to provide research and receipts on all of my TikToks, so that if you want to argue with Google, baby, because I'm not, this isn't just my opinion, these are facts. And so if you want to fuss with the facts, not me. But we need to educate people. And I have had many people tell me over and over and over again over the past decade that civics is not being taught in our schools.
No.
It has been taken out. Now, why, pray tell, would someone take away civics from your school? Because they don't want you to understand the power that you have in your vote. And we have to, just like as Black people, you know, when we were educating ourselves on Black history, just as we educate ourselves on everything else that has to do with us, we have to educate our people on how this system works. And we have to get the feelings out of it.
Not only just on a federal level, but on a state, you know, within our communities too as well.
Definitely.
We need to know we need to know who the police chief. We need to know who the fire chief is. We need to know who the school district director is. We need to know each and every single person that is responsible for the way I move and go to the grocery store to get gasoline or whatever I do in my day. I want to know who's responsible for the laws, the zones, the you know, everything that's involved there. Why I'm getting taxed 2 or 3 times at the grocery store when wasn't getting taxed before. And once you start peeling that information back and bringing it down to your front door, that's what we need to do. Now, it was said earlier that we trust politicians. It was said earlier that we trust individuals that they're doing the right thing. We're not in a stage anymore that we can trust folks to doing the right thing, because we can clearly see that it's not happening in our best interest. As me as a Black man, there's a lot of things that are not happening within my best interest. Now, you spoke about the GOP earlier. Now, the reason why history is so important is because we need to connect those individuals to understand that they are echoing a lot of the things that our forefathers had gone through before. A lot of things that are that GOP mouth is a lot of things that are being echoed from the past. And so the more that we educate people and bring those things together, it'll help them identify those individuals. That's my solution, is to helping individuals connect that so that they can make the right choice. The other part is getting them to the ballot, getting them there to vote, you know, and actually participating. So showing us fundamentally getting involved and getting our young individuals into positions that we hadn't been before. You know, we're starting to see, where was it? I'm losing the city and the state, the young Black mayor with the ship that had crashed into the
Baltimore.
There you go, Baltimore. Now look how much, I mean, this young man was mayor of this city for 3 years before any of these, you know, right-wing nuts, you know, yahoos even wanted to start, you know, their shadow boxing this, you know, this Black man that's a mayor down there. They had no idea he was down there. And all of a sudden, everybody knows who he is now. The man was down there doing his job. Okay. And a lot of people didn't know who he was. There was a lot of people within that city that didn't even know who he was. And that's what's important. We have to educate people. We have to show them who these candidates are. We have to show them what they're speaking about and what their actions are so that they can make those choices. So,
and the other thing is we have to show up. I tell people all the time that the reason why these people get into these job positions and then they don't do what you need them to do, or they don't do anything that's aligned with your beliefs, is because they know you're not going to show up to fire them. If you were at a job and you didn't do what you were supposed to do, and your boss never gave you an evaluation, or your boss never critiqued how you were doing it, are you going to do it the way you've been doing it, or are you going to do what the boss wants? You're going to do what you've been doing, because you're not afraid of anyone coming to take your job away from you. The people in our Senate and our Congress get a pension after holding that job for 5 years. if you knew you could have a job for 5 years, just 5 years, just coast on through for 5 years and have a pension, would you do what you said you were, what you said you're going to do to get the job? Or would you just, do the things like Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and all this nonsense that they're doing? These people are taking advantage of our tax money. They're taking advantage of us not paying attention, and they're taking advantage of us not participating. And the more, like, that's why I continue to say it over and over, because I want the people who understand, wait a minute, these people are doing what with my money? Like, I want those people to show up at the voting booth. I want the people who go, oh, wait, you mean I have the power to hire and fire the people who make the laws that rule my life? Let me get my butt involved. Like, that's who we need to figure out a way to multiply and replicate that across the country. Like I said, we need all the Karens that love to speak to the manager. We need your ass.
Bell curve. You dropped so many knowledge, so much nuggets. Colorful story. We'll let you get in here in a minute. So many nuggets. We can't even recap some of the things you said. We got to go back and do the playback. Perry, we knew this was going to be an awesome show, and obviously we're going to have to bring all of you guys back to do this again. We're at the top of the hour, but we knew this was going to take place, so we're going to continue. Colorful story, go ahead, jump on in there. I'm sorry.
I was going to say a few things. So when it comes to education, back in 2022, there was a study that came out about, I think it was from Forbes, where it shows that the average American reads on a 6th grade reading level. And I think that the fact that adults read on a 6th grade reading level, and I can tell you this as someone who taught adult literacy to adults on a 6th grade reading level. When I taught at a university, it's very telling how, like Bell always says, like, the GOP needs to be fired for a reason, because they depend on their constituents being stupid.
That's right.
And they really do depend on people being poorly educated about the process. That's why we don't have civics anymore. When I was in high school, so I'm a Katrina kid. I graduated the year that Katrina hit. And the year of my senior year, my history teacher was breaking down the political season. We had to dissect each political figure who was running and their policies. We didn't know what political party they were a part of. We just knew who was running and their policies. And we had to vote according to where our values lied. And then it was revealed what political party they were a part of once everyone had dissected where it was. We found that some of us were Republicans, some of us were independent, some of us were Democrats, some of us were Whigs. If some of you know history, you know who the Whigs were. So it was interesting that we were able to dissect policies and politicians that way in a classroom, and we don't do that anymore.
Nope.
Which is why I present my my content in a way that is very simplified. Like, people think that I'm being shady when I break it down to a kid's book. I literally use children's books to talk about American government. It is not higher than a 6th grade reading level. It is for that very reason, because of that study, because I understand that adults are not reading on a regular basis. Now, I read 176 books last year. I know everybody's not reading 176 books every year, but that's me. I'm a nerd. Everybody's not like that. And I'm talking thick books, 300 pages to 758 pages.
Girl, they not reading 6. They not reading 6.
They're not reading 6. So I'm giving, so on my platform, I'm giving screenshots of websites where you can go, but you got people getting upset because you can go to congress.gov and debunk every single thing that they're saying. And it's no, I'm not making this up for you, honey. I'm telling you, this is what is coming from your government. This is what your government is doing every day. You don't know how policies are passed. There's a little tracker at the bottom of every single bill that tells you where it's at, who introduced it, when they introduced it, why they introduced it.
They don't want to bother.
People are not wanting to read. And when you give them the information, it seems like, okay, you give them the information, but they don't want to think a little bit deeper. They don't want to think about why you're talking about a topic on a bill, but it's not what the bill is labeled. So for example, we're going to go here, and I didn't think we would, but we're going to go here. The Asian hate crime bill that does not exist.
Oh,
Right.
Talk about it.
It does not exist. It is literally labeled something different. And people have taken that bill to say that it goes against everything that helps Black people. And it doesn't. It doesn't. If you would just read the bill, because it highlights Asian people, it does not dismiss anybody else.
That's
we
right.
would literally not have it as a law because it goes
Because it would go against the Constitution.
It goes
Right,
against the
right.
Constitution to actually single out people by race,
That's right.
to give them one benefit that only benefits that particular group. Now we know that there are certain policies and certain laws that benefit the majority culture. That's about to be the minority culture, because brown people and Black people are populating and they are not.
Talk about it.
We know that. We know that.
That's why they scared.
But there will never be a
they're
policy.
scared.
There will never be a policy that will specifically say, in this time period, while we still have time, because you know the GOP is like, we this close, y'all. We this close to change. I just want to let y'all know. We touching Amendment 13, 14, and 15. We out of here.
Yep.
But we do not have policies that are on the books in 2024 that literally benefit one particular group by race, gender, religion, sexual orientation. We cannot do that because of the U.S. Constitution, and people will not read the Constitution. That is why, and I wish I had my book because I would put it up here in a heartbeat because I was constantly pulling it out. I read this book to my child because I want him to understand what the three branches of government do at the age of 9, because I don't want you to have questions at 18 when you go to that ballot box to understand why you in line voting for who you need to represent you. I don't need you to have questions about why you're in here trying to make sure that you're fighting against this policy, even though you may not like this person, but you're fighting against the policy. You're not fighting against the person, you're fighting against the policy.
You don't want him online arguing like an idiot, talking about, well, Obama should have codified Roe and not knowing that codifying a law was not going to stop this Supreme Court from overturning said law.
Yeah.
Like I was
It
I said something about that on one of my posts where I was like, maybe it's because I'm a Louisiana native and we had to learn about Plessy versus Ferguson in 8th grade Louisiana history.
Hello?
But if
All of us did.
you know about that, then you know that just because something has been codified into law does not stop the Supreme Court of the United States from overturning said law and kicking that out of here. So everybody who's using that as their soapbox as to why the Democrats are ineffective, you're a moron. You don't know what you're talking about. Shut up.
I also want to add this, and I'm glad you gave us this platform, because there are a few things that I just need to get off my chest. The president is not the king of the United States of America.
That part.
Thank you.
The president, we do not live in a monarchy. We do not live where a king and a queen runs our federal government. We are in a democracy, and that trickles down to the state level and the local level. Right. And if you knew this, then you would understand that the governor has a lot more power at the state level than the president.
Please,
and I really, and I'm like, I don't understand how people are not paying attention to what is happening here in Texas and in Florida and in Louisiana and in Georgia. Matter of fact, everything below the Mason-Dixon line.
That's right.
Where everything has already happened. I don't understand why people are not paying attention to how these things are happening. I got people in my comments section telling me, well, this is all happening underneath the Biden administration. Tell me you don't know how the state government works without telling me you don't know how the state government works.
That was
These
it.
people think that they're going to be able to DoorDash freedom to their door instead of going to the voting booth to get it. That's what they think. They really think that they're going to be able to Instacart rights or something instead of getting your butt up off your couch and going to the voting booth to say, no, this is what I want. This is what I need. This is what I stand for. It's where we are.
And people are talking about what is happening in Arizona with the abortion ban. today and yesterday. They're talking about those things, and they're talking about it in silos. Like some people have said, oh, well, that's an Arizona thing. It can't happen here. The fact that y'all can look at Texas and Florida and say it can happen here, but it can't happen here, it just blows my mind. The fact that Florida has had a white discomfort bill, and then you see DEI be overturned.
That's
then
right.
you see in Texas.
You got 7 states right now that have dismissed affirmative actions in colleges.
Right.
You have DEI. You just got those 60 employees that just got removed from their positions.
Texas.
Yep. So you're saying a lot here, because a lot of people, they're in this comfort zone that I had spoke about earlier, you know, especially with a lot of Black folks in society. We're in the threat is not imminent for us. We're not being pressured like we were, you know, we're taken out of the environment of fighting and survivability. And so our mindsets, you know, on a psychological level, we're sitting on a plane where we're comfortable. And so until the threat is imperative, or it's taking away from myself individually as a person, we will not activate and actually get involved. And that's just the human nature of anybody that's involved.
Yeah, Kenny, because we didn't have to take the sacrifices and make the sacrifices, we really don't feel we're losing anything. And that's just that's just the opposite.
Right.
You guys, this is so powerful.
That, Kenny, because David and I were talking, and I've always sort of likened social media, the internet, really in a more biblical term to what we talk about the spirit realm. Because they say if you release it in the spirit, it soon manifests itself in the physical. And I think we sort of, when the internet came around and we used to see flash mobs, and people were sort of amazed that people sort of got in silos, and then all of a sudden you saw this, that was somewhat of a novelty. But those same things still exist now, and it's used by more egregious and evil intended group.
Right.
Yeah.
Some people don't really see what you all get to see on a daily basis. So kind of share what that mindset, not just from crazy right wingers, but from even some who they say are our skin, but not our kin. How does that begin to work in how we're dealing with this?
That's another show.
I'm gonna be brief.
You don't have to say anything else about that. I mean,
I'm gonna be brief because
go ahead.
Oh, please.
Because there was a time that for 3 months straight, I was attacked by the Black Acronym Brigade.
They are aggravating.
Yes. I have been called a bed wench, a mammy, a shill, you name it. Did
they call you a half breed too? Because when you wear a hair curly, we have
me with 2 Black parents and 8 grandparents. All the nearest white person don't come until slavery in my generation. I've researched it, but apparently I'm a half breed.
ADOS as well.
I'm sorry.
ADOS as well.
Yes,
that's the acronym brigade.
The FBA,
all of them. Between them and some of the everybody in Texas, they have weapons. I have had life-threatening things. That is a certain reason. That is one of the reasons why I don't give out my name and information, because I have been threatened not only by the crazy nut maggots, but also by the Black Acronym Brigade. Like these people, they get there. Like they don't want to have people be out here having these conversations that need to be had, because it triggers something in them that either what they have always believed is now being told that it's not accurate, and it can be proven that it's not accurate, and it makes them feel, like Belle said earlier, it makes them feel a certain type of way. Now they're having to reconcile those feelings of, I believed the lie this whole time, so either I'm gonna keep believing a lie, or I'm gonna change my mind and possibly look like a fool. Well, sometimes when you're wrong, and you look like a fool in a moment, but when you change your thoughts into a way that can be supported by facts, you don't look foolish.
That part.
You don't look
it's
foolish.
To change your mind. It is okay to change your mind about things. And I think
100%.
hold on.
Yeah, please.
So in our social media type society right now, people feel as though they have to pick a team, put their flag in sand, and stand there firm and never move, like a tree planted by the water. You shall not be moved. And it's like, no, it is okay as a human being to evolve and learn new things and change your position on things. And for the people like the Alphabet Brigade, they are out there trying to tell Black people voting is unnecessary and voting doesn't count. It's the Electoral College that's going to pick the president anyway. Well, you don't know how the Electoral College works if you're saying that the Electoral College is not an institution that's going to pick what we want. The Electoral College votes in the way that you vote. Whoever votes for what candidate in your state more, the Electoral College is bound by law to do that. That is why we have all these fake elector scheme trials going on right now, because what they did is literally against the law. And also for people who say, the vote doesn't count, going back to Arizona's AG, their attorney general, who is saying that she is going to stand in the way of that Civil War rule. She won by like 200 votes. 200 people. Like that's like not even the whole population of a grocery store at any given time on a Saturday. You know what I mean? Like 200 people. And just like they're doing in Georgia right now to try to thwart Fani Willis's prosecution of Donald Trump and all these fake electors in that RICO trial, they have now created this whole little council that can all of a sudden get rid of the DA for whatever they want. You don't think they're going to try to do that in Arizona too? To get rid of this AG who has stated publicly that she's not going to convict people who are, going against this law. Like, we have to wake up and realize these people who want to oppress us know how the rules work. And just because they exploit the rules doesn't mean that you don't have a way to fight. What you need to do is learn how the rules work yourself and then work them suckers to your benefit so that they can't do it anymore.
What they're doing too as well, and to go back to the, not all, kin folk, skin folk, all that kind of stuff that's going on right now. I heard the ADOS and everybody else has been involved there. Now, I get it from all types of angles. Like, I get it from, the white extremists, in regards to typical racism that's going on there. And then I also get it from people of our own kind too, that, hit me from the side. And you have to be kind of prepared for it. So, and what you were saying earlier, colorful story, is that a lot of us are not educated, and it's okay to be wrong. I mean, I put out information, I cite a lot of my material, my history findings, and I make sure that there's plenty of documented information to prove my my statements, my history background, and everything else. And if I get something wrong, I'm the first to put it out on my social media to let people know, hey, I apologize, I got it wrong. Now, sticking a flag in it and to get barraged by our own kind, we're starting to see a separation within us that is going to this extreme too. And I will say this, and I will say it one time only in regards to this. When you see us going to this extreme, there is only one voice. Again, I said at the very beginning, and I'm going to reiterate it, that they can only go to the white supremacy talking points in regards to how we operate in society. Any person that leans into that extremism, that's the only place that they're going to lie. So the echoes are going to be just like the oppressors back during slavery, back during Jim Crow. They're going to speak the same talking points. So if you listen closely, you're going to hear us saying the same thing.
It's because the Alphabet Brigade does not want to get rid of oppression. They just want to be the new oppressors. It's a book, Paulo Freire, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, talks about it. And he says that if you grew up under oppression, then all you know is how those oppressive systems work. So all you're doing is trying to imitate and emulate that instead of breaking that down and making sure that no one is oppressed anymore. And that's why they have, gotten these alphabet gangs together. And I've even seen them go at each other on who's really black. And I'm just this is all nonsense. This is nonsense. Listen, I'm the one that does not have any, it's not within my constitution to deal with people like that. I cuss them out and I block them. That's what I do. I can't deal with them. I know that there's somebody out there who can reach them. It ain't me.
It's a different level. It's a different level. I was Black History Month. I had actually advocated for the individual that's the head of their group per se, because I was identifying a whole bunch of different individuals and I just happened to put them out there. And next thing you know, the write-up that I did was actually a pleasant write-up. I mean, it's still on social media. It's still on there. And I actually did an informative write-up. I didn't degrade anybody or put anybody down, but it turned into this barrage of insecurities. It's almost like as if I dealt with, somebody on the extremist side of white supremacy, because as soon as you hit them, what does the dog always do? They holler.
That's right. And they're not QAnon, they're blue anon. No. That's what we call them. Like,
right.
They're the same thing. Just it's the horseshoe theory. The further away from the middle you get, the closer you get to the people on the extremes, and that's what they have done. And it's really sad to see.
Absolutely. And that's another thing that we're fighting. The three of us and many of others that are listening or advocating and standing with us on our voices in regards to our platforms. That's what we're up against too as well. And I try to educate that as much. I don't leave any rock unturned. I mean, if it's something on our side of the fence and we need to take responsibility, I flip that side too as well. And as ugly as it is, I make sure that I get it out there. But as far as the majority goes, we are impacted by the majority, and that's a typical conversation that happens, and that needs to get put out there too as well, every day on a daily basis.
Yeah. Absolutely, guys. Listen, we've been getting comment after comment. We can't even put them up and post them. They're coming so fast, and this whole entire conversation is so power packed and so on point. We're gonna have to kind of summarize this and let you guys give your final thoughts at some point, because we're at the bottom of another hour, guys. We've gone through an hour and we're at the bottom of another hour. And some of our producers do have other commitments. But this has been awesome. And we're just scratching the surface. There's so much more we got to peel back. Perry, you mentioned some things in reference to the internet and how what's being put out there, and this is what needs to be out there. You guys need to continue to doing what you're doing and educating the mass, especially in this framework. I am so excited and so elated about what's happening, Perry. But before we let everybody give their final comments, Perry, is there anything else you want to add to the conversation or pose any other questions?
No, I'm going to let our guests have the last word. I'll close out, and man, I am so. This has been a great evening. I cannot think of a better way to spend a Thursday. Yes. Okay, so starting again from Colorful. Give us some closing thoughts. Definitely tell people where they can find you. How we can get involved in helping to support your platform.
So I am CF Story on TikTok and Colorful Story on Instagram, Threads, and Twitter. I'm taking a break from the devil's playground.
Explain Threads for some of these folks.
Threads is a less clan rally, a smaller clan rally than Twitter. I'm just it's peaceful over there. I block people over there, but Threads is basically the Instagram version of Twitter. And it's a lot more calm, and people actually dialogue and build community over there. But yeah, that's where you can reach me. If you are on the fence about voting this year, I will tell you this is not the year to do it. No year is the year to do it. This is a critical time that we need to be making sure that we're out to vote. I do have the election dates for this year in the state of Texas, and it is very common across other states as well. When early voting starts, please do not wait till election day to go vote. I tell y'all all the time on my platform to 290,000 people, do not wait until election day to go vote. Go early, vote. Have your plan. The election is November 5th. Make sure you know what you are doing on November 5th. Put it on your digital calendar, in your planner, in your phone. Call your mama, tell her, put it in her prayer Bible. Do what you have to do to make sure that you show up the week before November 5th for early voting. But if you just have to go on election day, make sure you show up for November 5th and stay in line. Do not leave. Stay in line. There have been people that have fought worse than you will ever face, but stay in line.
That's right. So with me, I am Bell Curve on, and it's spelled Belle like Southern Belle, and Curve with a K because my first name is Kelly. And yes, I do know what the Bell Curve was. People ask me that all the time. Like, do you actually know what that means? Yes, I'm reclaiming it. Just like we reclaim everything that they tried to say, that they tried to use to degrade Black people. I'm reclaiming the Bell Curve. So that's why my name is that. And also, it used to be Bell Curve on Twitter, but I got kicked off of Twitter. So for calling someone who was trying to throw Candace Owens talking points at me, I called them something that you can't, I guess you can't call them that on Twitter. So that's what happened. So I'm Vote Ho, and the Ho is spelled Heaux because I'm from Louisiana, but it's a callback to when President Obama was telling people something at a rally and they were booing about the whatever legislation he was talking about. And he said, "Don't boo, vote." That's exactly, like, I was like, that's right. You got to vote, ho. Like, don't just sit at your house and complain and get on Twitter and abuse me. Get your butt up and vote, ho. So that's what I am about. And my website is voteho.org. And you can go to the resources tab on my website for all the voter resources you need. There's voter resources for the AAPI community. There's voter resources for the Latino community, for the Black community, just regular 411 vote things. I have almost every link you can think of on the resources tab on my website, which is voteheaux.org. Or you can just go to my social media, and in my bio, the link, it's a bio site. It will take you to my website there. But I just want people to get up, get out, and vote. Get involved, get engaged, get informed, and get educated on how you can hire and fire the people who are making the laws that run your life in this country before you won't be able to do it anymore. And one last thing, on my TikTok page, I actually have a pinned video. I have a couple of pinned videos, but one of the videos speaks to the people who claim they're so tired of the two-party system. If you really want to get rid of the two-party system, I have a theory on how we can do that. And if you go and watch that video, you will see how. But it's going to take you being involved and doing what you need to do, which is vote, ho. Okay, that's it.
How do you follow up with that? How do you do it? So I'm pretty simple. My Twitter handle, which is my strongest platform, is my first name, Ken, middle initial E, Akers, Akers, and I'm the same on every platform. I mean, I was lucky enough to make it the same on every single platform. So, and if you want to find me on other platforms, you can do as well. But that's my strongest platform, is on Twitter. I do cause a ruckus on there daily. I ruffle feathers daily. I cause mayhem daily. And I get these conversations out there, things that I ask in regards to everything underneath the sun. And it's taken a very strong consideration of some of the things that I used to say before, but I'm unplugged now. And so there's a lot of things that are being said, and there's a lot of conversations that are coming up. It's very informative, and it's very conducive to what we need in the Black community and within the white community as well, to help them understand allyship, help them understand where they can fit in, where to understand that we are trying to merge in certain aspects in society. So I don't want to shunt them out either as well. I know this is a Black topic, but I don't want to shut them out, because that's what I'm advocating for. I mean, we need as many voices as we possibly can to get in the right direction. And so a lot of these people historically have shown up for us, even on, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. We could say some of the greats out there. There's always been white, individuals that have plugged into these situations and been there to assist Black leadership. So with that being said, what I want the public to know is to know your history, understanding historical topics and context. Please know your history, our history, and what it means to be an American. For me, in my military history and the time that I had served, you know, it was ingrained in me when I was a child because my father was also in the military too as well. But I have a different renowned respect for who I am as a Black American, you know, and what it means for me to show up as a citizen in this society. So knowing your history will bring back some pride and bring us back to who we are as a people and understand what we've been through and where we need to go. So that's important to me. Once you understand the history, understand where you're at politically. We had talked about this earlier. Understand where we're at politically today. In today's day and age, understand where we are at. If you understand our history and understand what's going on today politically, you will see the problem and you will be able to come up with the solutions on your own within your communities and be able to advocate different groups and pander that out to where we can make this a movement. We're all speaking the same language. As far as the Black community goes, we're speaking the same language. I can speak to somebody from Florida to Texas to Kentucky, even here in Utah. We're all having the same conversations. And so we just need to organize and get a better understanding in regards to what's going on politically. And last but not least, challenge the dominant voice within society. Challenge it. Just don't lay over and play dead because somebody had told you so. Challenge it. Wake up every day and question their intentions, question the sugarcoating, and question the fact that if it's not benefiting you, ask yourself why it's not.
That's right.
And that's all I have.
Wow. Now, how do you follow that? Wow. But as we close, colorful story, Belker, Kenny, can't thank all of you enough just for being opening to answering an email from some crazy guy saying, hey, look, I got a crazy idea for a show. Thank you for being bold and creative and really being committed to furthering not just your story, but our stories. And, you know, this whole night, we've been talking about a generation that is somewhat in our rearview mirror and a generation that is ahead of us. And as listen to all of you talk about where we are in this juncture and where the GOP is. One thing I always remember about the GOP, and they've always been very upfront about it, is that they've always been the party of less government. And some people will sort of look at that and go, well, that sounds good. I don't want a whole lot of government in my bedroom. And it feels right in these times talking about the encroachment of government. But we have to understand who government is. Mm-hmm. Lincoln said it best. We are a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So when they say they want less government, they want less you.
That's right.
Less me. And they've never shied away from that. No. And then when we think about Lincoln saying that about the people, then we also have to look at his counterpart at the time, Frederick Douglass, who said, while Lincoln was said, we are a country for the people, by the people, Douglass said, when you find out just what people will quietly submit to, then you will find out the exact measure of injustice and wrong that will be imposed upon you.
That's right.
So when government sees what we are willing to accept, as I said, this started. I've always said this started when the day that Trump, they aired that video with Trump talking about grabbing women by the pussy. People forget that in that sandwich between that interview, you had the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of National Intelligence telling us that our elections had just been compromised by Russia. And then a few minutes after that, they came out and said, what was it? It was another incident, and it escapes me. But all of that got sucked up over a videotape.
Mm-hmm.
And Trump found out on that day that if people could live past this, they'll live past anything.
That's
and
right.
that is where we at. When you are willing to accept that, not just the GOP, us, we accepted it. So I encourage you, talk to the GOP, but we got to talk to us.
That's right.
And we got some work to do. And I'm for everyone who does. When I look at voting, there's no more people committed to voting than black folk.
That's right.
I've seen it from my earliest days in Southeast Texas. I've seen black folk rally together and work. But our strength has also been our weakness. Because our communities, because in that strength, as Kelly said, when you got to those extremes, they just said, oh, they'll handle it. And this is what we're left with an old guard who's still trying to hold on, and a young guard who really don't have a clue.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And a younger guard who really saying, we don't even know where to go. So we got to coalesce. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate our listeners, all of you who are committed to helping us get to the polls, the Divine Nine, the black organizations, Urban League, NAACP. We do a lot of work to get us to the polls. But we don't check a doggone thing after the vote is over. And that, as Kelly said, it's about numbers.
It's numbers.
We losing numbers in some small places.
Right.
Because we don't check numbers. And I'm not getting into the big lie. But when this show is over, we're going to talk together. And folks, thank you for listening in, because we got some more planning to do, some more strategizing to do. We're going to get some Black Panthers in here. And we're going to get back to some old time strategizing and getting some things done for us.
Yes.
Because I think the more we get caught into this Republican, Democrat dialogue, and we both know it's establishment rules. I mean, and
that's right.
Because I when you think about the Florida Democratic Party not even attempting to have a primary, again, I go back to that statement. The Democrat won't, when it's beneficial for them, they want less government too. Mm-hmm. They want less you too.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's why I always say, don't make a political party your personality. Right. It's because it's a function. It's a tool. Right. All the party is a tool. You have to vote for you. And it is clear as day who is for us and who is against us right now. And it's also clear as day who has a chance to win and who does not. So when you whittle all those things down, you really only have one choice. Mm-hmm. Go out there and do it so that we can continue to revamp and remake this system into something that works for us. It's not going to happen overnight, but it can happen. It's a numbers game. If you're not putting your number in, you don't have nothing to say about it. That's just being real.
Starting with your county clerk. Let's start with
some
of those positions where that govern the management of your vote. Let's
I'll even take it
election officer.
Take it a step further.
Those people who are really local.
The people that are taking out the trash in the public building.
A senator, you don't even see them. You can see your county tax collector. You can see them. Right. You can see your county commissioners. You can see your city council.
Mm-hmm. Hey guys, we're gonna have to wrap it up though. A few of us got to drop, but awesome. As Perry closed us out, we just want to thank you guys again. We have some guests that actually have to go. So again, awesome show. Thank you all again for everything you poured into us tonight. And we're really looking forward to our next event. God bless you
Thank
all.
you.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.